Today's episode of Crime Crazy is brought to you by Audible. Now, fans of Crime Crazy Podcast can get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/crimecrazy. They have over 180,000 titles to choose from, and you can listen on your iPhone, your Android, your Kindle, or your MP3 player. www.audibletrial.com/crimecrazy. Is it recording?
And we're live.
Welcome to Crime Crazy.
Welcome to Crime Crazy, the weekly true crime podcast with Aaron Plime,
And Jordan Middleton.
where we prove
That we know nothing about our legal system.
but we're still crazy for a good true crime story.
Ding, ding, ding.
I like how you start like shaking your head back and forth when I'm
Yes.
doing my final line. Like,
do.
oh, we did it.
Yep. Premature celebrating.
Also, did you see that we got a thumbs up from David? He's like, you
Oh,
got it in one.
No, I didn't.
This is like our 31st episode, and we finally got it.
I know. Well, you know. Even when we were at dinner, everything was a thumbs up from Toby, and he would make
Yeah.
me look at the thumbs up.
When Sophie does thumbs up, she does like the trigger finger.
Yeah.
And she like points with her finger up in the air with her thumb also up. And
That's
she's
like real ghetto.
Yeah. Well, she'll do it when we're at Sunday night dinner and she's eating something that she likes and she'll go, Mom, Mom, and like point a gun at me.
I'd be like, anything you want.
Right. But it really means I like this food.
That's so funny.
So, all right. So we have an interesting episode today.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Me too. This story is a little crazy, and of course I named it something funny, so.
I'm excited. And my story is crazy as well. And it is also, well, I'll just wait and surprise everybody.
Yeah.
They're going to be mad. And then we have an update on a case we've been following forever.
I know.
Months and months and months and months.
I know.
It's not a
took long enough.
satisfying update.
Mm-mm.
No.
No.
And then we have a bunch of shout outs.
Yeah, I was going to say, we have a lot of exciting, happy things.
I agree. And we can talk about Podbean. It's
Yep.
October.
It is.
And the last week of this month, we're going to be featured on their little banner.
I know.
So, like, when you log into the Podbean app or you go to podbean.com, you'll see Crime Crazy. Like,
I know.
It's us.
I was showing my friend that, and I was like, we're going to be, like, in this section.
right here.
That's so exciting.
It is very exciting because
I
we
love
get to be
October.
a creepy crime podcast for a spooky month.
I know. We're going to have to do, like, a themed episode.
Oh, we so do. Okay, we can't start thinking about that now. We got stories to tell. And we're trying to do this in one take.
One take, guys. One take. Are we starting?
We're starting. I'm
All right,
ready.
guys. So, I don't know how many of you guys listen to that trap music, but there's a song.
What?
It's like rap music or any radio station I can think of you don't listen to. So
No, I don't.
yeah. So it's it's a line in the song, and it's I can't. Sorry. Okay. So the song is called Bodiac Yellow, and it's by Cardi B, and it's really funny. And she's like the first female rapper to get the #1 spot, so it's like really good, like female empowerment
yeah,
stuff.
that's
So
well,
like yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. So she bumped Taylor Swift down, so Taylor Swift sent her flowers, like, you did it, type of thing.
Okay.
Like, 'cause you're a rapper, no one ever gets that, whatever.
Right.
Okay, fast forward. A part of her song, she's talking about her shoes, and, you know, like red bottom shoes.
Okay.
So they're really expensive. They're Louboutins, like,
right,
whatever.
right.
So she says they're well, you know, she's ghetto, so she says these expensive, but these is bloody shoes because they're red bottoms.
Oh, uh-huh.
So my story has to do with bloody shoes.
Okay.
So I named them.
I feel
these are bloody shoes.
I really hope that some of the people listening are like, oh yeah, I totally understood that without her explanation, because otherwise it was like 15 minutes of explanation for one joke.
I know a few people would know, but I was like, you know what? There's probably a lot more that don't.
That
so
don't
sorry.
know. I mean, my mom listens to this. I'm fairly certain she doesn't know.
There you go, Mom. You got some
Now
info.
you know.
Now you can sound cool.
Right, when you go visit grandma at her apartment.
And all the other...
All the other old people.
I was going to say all the other grandmas.
When we go, Sophie goes, there's so many grandmas. It's great.
Oh, I love it.
All
That
right.
would be me. But
So bloody shoes.
bloody shoes is the theme of my story.
Because it's about rap or because there are shoes?
Shoes.
Okay. I'm way
Actual
more
shoes.
into it now.
Yep.
Okay.
So this was in, well, I said 2017, but that's not right. I think it's 15. This is going great. This was in Houston, Texas. And
In December of 2017,
I know it
which
was in
hasn't
June.
helped yet.
I know
Okay.
it was in June. I just think it's 2013. It's an odd year.
It's an odd year.
Like odd, not as in
It's-
like peculiar, but odd as an odd number. So it's either 13. You know what? Now that I say 13, that sounds better than 15. Okay, I'm going 13.
All right. So sometime in the 2010 pluses.
Yes.
11,
In the
13, 15, or 17. But it was June.
Yep. I think it was 13. So June.
And what was the location? Because I got distracted by
Houston.
the year. Okay, so it was hot. It doesn't
Oh,
matter.
yeah.
It's hot.
It's hot.
Okay.
There, no matter what. The heat doesn't have anything to do with it, but it's a good thought.
Yeah, because everybody was miserable, so they killed each other.
Ooh.
The end.
Man, that would have been my motive. Okay. So, this girl, ready for me to mispronounce a name?
Already?
I know it's Anna. I know her first name's Anna.
Okay.
Last name, Trujillo. Guys, work with me here. So, she's 45 years old.
Okay.
And her boyfriend was 59 years old. His name, well, if I had it right in front of me. Oh, yeah. Another name I'm going to mess up.
All right, I'm ready.
Alf?
Alf. Like that
ALF.
fucking scary alien that
Oh,
microwaves the cats. I bet his name was Alfred.
Alf. That's all I got.
Are there other Alf?
Alf Stefan Anderson.
Oh, it could have been Alfredo.
I think he was Swedish.
Never mind.
Oh.
Take
Mamma
it
mia.
back.
Oh. That was your facial expression. So I'm sure it's Anderson because there's two S's.
Okay.
Anderson.
Sure.
We're going to go with that. But anyway, that's him. He's 59 years old. And
Now all I can think about is Alf.
guess
That thing
who
scared
the
me.
murderer is? Alf or Anna?
I hope it's Anna.
You hope it's Anna?
Yeah, because I really hate Alf, and it's giving me like PTSD, and which is not something to joke about, but I really hate Alf a lot, and I don't want to hear you say his name a whole lot.
Okay. So,
Are you gonna tell me, or that was just it? Just guess. All right, now
well,
let's
no,
move on.
I wanted you to guess to kind of see what you were thinking because now I get to tell you were right. It is her.
Ooh, dun dun dun.
So, this little crazy batshit girlfriend murdered her boyfriend late one night by taking her stiletto heel off and bashing him in the head and face 25 times.
Like stabbing him,
Dun, dun,
or
dun.
like,
Yes.
holy smokes!
Yeah. 25 times.
Wow. Also, I feel like any shoes I own would break.
Well, these ones, I forget the brand name, but it wasn't Louboutins,
Right.
which was the fun. But she kept saying that, oh, well, I already had that pair. We're trying to be cool. Because why not try to be cool with shoes? But there was like some like $100 pair of heels, and it was a 5.5-inch stiletto heel.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
So it had to be, I mean, if it's that tall, it had to be a strong material.
Oh, yeah. So we'll get to that in a second. But she's freaking nuts, but whatever.
Well, obviously.
So she claimed to be the victim of abuse, because she got arrested the next day for the murder, and then by the time she got to trial, it was a 2-week-long trial.
Okay.
So I was like, all right, well, how much? I feel like, I don't know. Sometimes that they like fluff it up, or you know what I mean. But since this was a jury, they had to take everything into consideration.
Sure.
And she claimed to be a victim of abuse, and she said, well, I was just defending myself.
Defending yourself by stabbing him 25 times in the face with shoes.
So that's what the jury was like, I don't know about that, because in the 2-week trial, and you do have time to talk about literally everything, they brought up that she had a violent and strange past, which I'll definitely touch a lot on in a little bit. But so the jury was not convinced that that was the reason. One juror, I hate that word.
It's like jewelry. It's really hard to make my mouth make that shape.
Yeah, I don't like that. But he was like, if you're defending yourself from me 25 times is a little much.
It's overkill, right?
So that's what I thought. I was like, that's overkill. Don't even watch a crime drama. So on the stand, they kept saying, okay, well, what happened in the last few hours of the relationship you had with him? And she would, talk about their day. She would kind of like skip over certain things, but like embellish others.
Right.
So it took her 6 hours to explain her day and night and everything leading up to the murder.
I think it's also interesting that she took the stand.
A lot of people took the stand in this, but I was like, they had all the time in the world. 2 weeks is a long time.
Sure.
I would hate to be one of the people in the deciding jury. I'd be like, I'm done.
I'm bored. Let me go.
So, she did take the stand, I think, more than once, too.
Wow.
So, when she was up there, she was telling the same, like everyone kept reporting, it was the same boring story, and she would just...
First we ate breakfast, then he punched me in the face, then I called him a bad word, then we did the dishes.
So they were like, okay, well, explain like the fight, explain why you were so scared for your life, explain this, explain that, to the point where she would go off topic so much and avoid it.
Oh, like us.
Yeah. But unlike us, we don't have an attorney giving her hand signals when she's going off topic too much and people are getting pissed.
We probably should, though.
Yeah, we should.
I mean...
Oh, I thought David was like, no, I'm not doing that for you.
Right. Nope. He's talking to the video game people.
So they were like, okay, explain why you feared for your life. Explain why it was self-defense. Explain why it was 25 times in the face and head if you were just trying. Because she kept saying, well, I was scared for my life and I didn't, what'd she say? I never meant to kill him. I just wanted to get away.
Okay, so I feel like at some point stabbing him 25 times, he probably stopped moving.
Yeah. I think she zoned in too hard and just kept going.
Okay, so I don't want to... That could be a thing, though, right? If you were really scared of somebody and then you did something to them that you know is going to piss them off, I bet you'd be panicked and you'd want to just make sure they weren't going to get up again. Like, that seems reasonable to me.
I would say I feel like that could be a normal human reaction. But...
It's interesting that she had a shoe and not, like, a knife or a bat. Or
the thing with the shoe was that was the only thing in arm's reach was her shoe because she was wearing it.
Okay.
So she pretty much took it off. And
so a weapon of opportunity to the extreme.
Yes. So, okay. So they were like, all right, we'll try to explain it. And she would just kind of ignore it and just kept talking about other stuff. So the jury was not buying it at all.
And they probably didn't like her by that point.
Yeah. And then I guess when they got to... Oh, they finally got it out of her. Sorry. It was the night that they returned back to... He had like a luxury high-rise in like the city. Oh. And they went to his apartment and they had been drinking all day. And they got back home at 2 a.m.
Yikes.
So drinking all day long.
Yeah.
So this is so dumb. So when she took the stand and finally told the jury what happened in these like final hours, so this is what makes me feel like, I know she was on the stand at least twice, but she might have been on more than twice if it took this long just to get the
story out. Right.
Yeah. But she finally talked about it and said that, oh, well, he wrestled me to the floor, made it hard for me to breathe, and that never really touched on So then I grabbed my shoe and did this. Like, she never talked about her story. She gave everything leading up to it, but then, like, wouldn't talk about anything after that.
That is so weird.
Like, why?
Then there must be some part of that she didn't want people to know, or she didn't.
That's why first thing I thought, I was like, okay, well, what are you trying to hide?
Right. Because I feel like there is where, you say, and I hit him the first time because I couldn't breathe and I was scared. And then I was like, oh my God, he's going to get up and kill me. And I couldn't stop.
Have you ever seen Chicago?
No.
It's a musical. You've never seen Chicago?
No, I've never seen it. I know what it is. I have never seen it. I know I'm an uncultured swine, but I can tell you anything about Harry Potter.
That's not Chicago.
No, it's not Chicago.
But it's thing,
awesome.
She's having an affair. Sorry, guys, if you don't know what Chicago is. She's having an affair, and then she's mad because he lied to her and was like, thought he was going to get her famous. So she grabbed the gun and shot him. So then in the trial, their story was, well, it was self-defense because they both reached for the gun and she got it first. So I was like, so why wouldn't you say, well, it was self-defense and he already had me down on the ground, so I grabbed my shoe and defended myself.
Right, it was the only thing I could get from where I was.
I feel like if you played that card, you probably would have had a better chance.
Yeah.
No.
Instead of being sort of sketchy about the whole thing.
And he was like a pretty, I don't know if he was like well-known, but he was a very smart, wealthy man. He was a biochemist and a professor at the University of Houston. So he was, I mean, I'm sure he was well off if he's a professor, and I don't know if he was both a biochemist and a professor at the University of Houston.
I think a lot of times, depending on like what university it is, if you are a professor, you're also still required to research and publish and all of that.
Yeah.
So he could have, basically that's like doing two jobs, right?
Yeah.
So if he had a patent on something or he discovered, like, that could be a very important job. Interesting. So they found her guilty?
They did. They the jury said, because she didn't play that card, it hurt her more than it helped her. She didn't talk about her part of the story.
Right. So it felt like something was missing, then she couldn't be telling the truth.
And then the whole violent past thing kept coming up.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess she has always been labeled crazy. So the one prosecutor said everything from slapping strangers to killing her boyfriend and everything in between.
Well, I mean, that is crazy.
So just to give you a few little tidbits of her craziness, because they didn't want her to try to plead like mental insanity.
Yeah.
So she was reported that all this has been reported. She bit an ex-boyfriend.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Any biting happens, like, you're fucking nuts.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Right.
But
I mean, unless it's like playful nipping.
No, I was going to say, if it's an attack and you're biting me like a dog, please no. She attacked a security guard while she was very drunk.
Of course. Sounds like that might be a recurring theme as well.
Yeah. That's true. I was like, they didn't even mention she had been drinking all day long at 2 a.m. when they went home. I'm sure her ass was drunk.
Well, right, but who was driving? Like, I guess
city,
that doesn't matter.
Yeah, I would say cities, it don't matter. Because you could either walk or you just taxi.
Uber,
yeah.
Depending on which year it was, but you don't know which year it is.
It could have been anything. They could have taken a bus. Who knows?
From their high rise.
Yeah, right. They probably had like a limo service.
Right.
And the last crazy thing was that she was randomly in her neighbor's apartment using their bathroom, and they caught her.
What?
Isn't that like kind of the craziest one?
That's kind of worse than biting. Oh my God. Can you imagine coming home to your empty apartment and there's somebody even someone in your bathroom?
Yeah.
I'd probably kill them before I knew. Actually, no, I wouldn't. I'd hide in my car and call 911.
Someone's using my bathroom.
There's somebody in my house. I think they're peeing. I couldn't really tell. I didn't stick around.
Oh gosh. So the shoe, that was obviously like, these are some of like the
glove,
the more I was say the more dramatic aspects to this jury, because
quilt,
not the quilt. Oh gosh. The quilt was good. Now it's the shoe.
Now it's the shoe. Pretty soon
so-
we'll have a whole household full of fabric.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
I wish that I'd said that in a more clever way. Keep going.
This is funny. So, okay, this is more the dramatics. I had to write these down because I was like, okay, guys, I see what you're going for. So they could only show this by x-raying the heel. Or like the shoe itself. I keep calling it a heel because that's what it is, a high heel. But
okay.
So they x-rayed the shoe and they said, look inside the heel and the sole. It looks like a little ice hammer.
Oh my God.
Because the middle of, because it's a stiletto, it's a steel.
So it's got a center. Yeah.
So that's why they were like, it was like just a little hammer just going right
sure.
in. And
well, I mean, I think that's a good point to point out to people because my first thought is, well, that's not a scary weapon.
Yeah.
But if it's
steel
steel reinforced,
yeah,
that is kind of a scary weapon.
So they showed everyone that by x-raying it.
That's funny.
The other most dramatic thing in the entire world was the prosecutor, John Jordan.
Nice.
Yep. Straddled a dummy mannequin on the courtroom table and repeatedly stabbed it in the head with a similar stiletto 25 times to get the point across.
Wow. That would have been so upsetting to me unless I was in a group of friends and we were drunk, and then it may have been humorous.
Well,
but not in a murder trial.
They were describing it like that because there were cameras at this.
Right.
That they were like zooming in on his every strike.
Right. I bet it took a scary amount of time.
Oh yeah, 25
and
times.
A lot of like upper body strength.
Because adrenaline was the only thing working for her on that one. Because I can't imagine that into like not even a dummy, which is probably much softer than a person.
Well, sure, there's no skull in a dummy.
Yeah, so I can't.
I assume.
Like when the first responders and police arrived on the scene, they thought that he had been shot. That's how bad it was.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
from a shoe.
Isn't
there an episode of Criminal Minds with a shoe? There's an episode of some crime drama that I've watched where the murder weapon is a stiletto.
Oh yeah, the crazy Cinderella girl. She's like,
yes,
yep. I just
because like
that
JJ trips or something, and that's how she finds out.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It was something about it. Yeah,
that is insane.
Then, long story short, the jury found her guilty, obviously, because but the jury itself didn't believe her. The whole one
juror that they had there.
He was the one that kept talking. I don't remember his name. I didn't write it down, but
okay.
He was
like the one that
saying,
did the interviews and stuff. Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
So they found her guilty and sentenced her to life in prison.
Right.
But I think she can be out. I'm not out, but like paroled in 30 years.
Gotcha.
So she can get out, but at the end it was like
which could be like around 43, 47, 45, 41.
It's an odd year. So I guess at the end her parents went up to his family and apologized because some of the people in his family spoke in the trial, was like, he wasn't depressed, and I doubt that he abused her. Like, he was a very kind man. Like, he had a lot of character witnesses, so her story would be even more flawed. But
sure.
Yeah, her parents went up to his parents and was like, I'm so sorry.
Right.
Yeah. I was like, that's always sad to have that guilt.
No kidding. Well, and I really hate stories like that where the woman tries to say, oh, I was abused, oh, he did this, because that just casts doubt on everybody who is in that situation. Yep. And just because you're a nutcase, you shouldn't be allowed to say that.
Yeah. I that's the same thing with a sexual assault. That's why most people who they don't say anything because they're like, no one's going to believe me.
Right. They're just going to think, oh, well, that's convenient.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
Yep.
Great. Thanks, Jordan.
I'm sorry, but she'll get out one day. We don't know what day because I don't know what year. So everyone be on your P's and Q's.
Right. I mean, you got another 30-ish
I'm going to try to find
years.
a picture of this heel because they were like a cobalt blue something heel stiletto. I was like, dang, okay.
It's probably a gorgeous shoe.
But they said that even like pieces of hair, of his hair
was stuck to it. I'm sure.
Ugh. That's why they were bloody shoes.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, a bloody shoe anyway.
Bloody shoe. Well, yeah.
Unless she had like one in each hand and she's just alternate whacking.
Oh my God, that would have been that would have been massive overkill.
Right.
I just assumed that she might have stepped in his blood with.
Oh well, yeah, maybe. So you're hobbling away from the crime scene with one shoe.
Yeah,
on
one 5.5 inch.
I don't know. I feel like every time I put on heels, I walk like that. So
I don't know.
And they're like 1 inch heels.
I always get this like power strut. So
yeah,
like, I'm on a roll, and
with, like,
Mike's
your
like,
butt
"Why are you
sticking
walking
out.
so fast?" And I'm like, "Gotta go, gotta keep this motion."
Right. If I stop, I'll trip. Well, that is the trick to walking in heels. Is just to pretend that you know how to walk in heels and just go. Don't let yourself know.
No, yep. Don't think it. Just go.
Wow, that is an insane murder weapon.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to find a picture of the actual shoe.
Oh, you totally have to, because that has to be our cover image for our blog post. Ooh. That would be an excellent one, because most of them are faces, except for the cat drawing.
Except for what?
The cat drawing. You remember the one with all the cats? We drew cats.
Yeah. That one was funny. I don't know why I felt like I had to meow right then.
You meow most of our episodes.
Sentence to life, I do. Well, I meow a lot to my friends, like,
which is funny because you're not a cat person.
No, I'm definitely not.
But you just meow.
But yeah, because we'll like sing songs if we don't know the words. We just fill it with
meows, of course, of course.
She was sentenced to life April 11th, 2014.
Oh my God!
Well, no, which means the murder was June
of 2013. Okay,
hey, my memory served me right.
Sort of,
kinda
on the third try.
Oh gosh! All right. Well, that was my story with people's names I couldn't pronounce.
I love
and
it.
A shoe.
And a shoe. That was a cool one.
Yeah.
I like that. That was different. And it wasn't at all what I thought you were going to tell.
Ooh.
Because when we had discussed it earlier, you were like, well, I'll do this one and this one. And I knew those stories.
Yeah. And I was like,
you totally switched it up on me.
I had to switch it up because then you would have known. Oh,
right.
There's the shoe. Ew, it has. I'm going to throw up.
That face, you like flushed and your cheeks bulged and it, oh man, okay. Just turn it toward me and not toward you. Holy shit. Ew. Oh my God. Okay, that's our, you know what, maybe we'll post a clean pair of those shoes. No,
it has to be this one.
Really? Because nobody's ever going to visit our blog again.
I'm going to share it with you.
I think her eyes are watering.
I'm physically not feeling it right now. You should tell your story.
Okay. Stop looking at the shoes. What are you doing?
Put it in our drive.
Okay, put your phone down.
I have to get off of the page. Okay.
Don't puke on the microphone.
I won't.
Or the couch. It's new.
They held up her bloody pants.
Oh.
So yeah, they're definitely.
Holy crap. Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, a head wound, like anything 25 times. But
little biatch.
That's horrible. Mine doesn't have murder in it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, definitely start telling your story.
But I want to talk about something else first.
Oh, okay.
So I wanted to do our Audible plug because I'm super excited about this book.
Yeah.
So, of course, Crime Crazy fans can get a free audiobook and a 30-day free trial by going to audibletrial.com/crimecrazy and then picking out anything that you want to download and listen to, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Also, it supports. Yeah, we get some support from Audible every time somebody signs up, so definitely do that. Mm-hmm. But also, we've been using this as a chance to talk about books, and I have a book I want to talk about. So, actually, this is kind of one that we've done before. So, you remember when Sharon R.
Yes.
Suggested the Louise Penny, Armand Gamache series. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I finally started listening to it, and I listened to one of them, and it took me a little while to get through it because I just had a bunch of other stuff going on. And then I took a sick day yesterday and listened to most of another one. And they are so good. They are set in Canada in this little picturesque, idyllic town where people keep getting murdered.
Like Canada.
And like all of Canada. Everybody there's very Canadian and nice. But they actually have really great characters. Like there are these 3 old women that are like super sassy and mean. And Anyway, they're wonderful characters. My only thing about them that I don't love, I think I might have told you this, is that, oh no, maybe I didn't tell you. The author has some issue with dogs. And
what kind of issue?
Well, the author loves dogs.
Oh, okay.
However,
Uh-oh.
I feel like maybe there's some trauma there because the dogs in the story always make me cry. That's the people die and their friends are upset, or like somebody gets accused and they're terrified, and it's very emotional and whatever else. And I'm like, it's okay. In the end, it's going to be okay. And then they talk about the dogs.
Aww.
And like one of the dog's owners got killed and it was always looking for its mommy. And I'm just bawling in the shower listening to the story. Anyway. Excellent books. They're very for murder mysteries, they're very calming. Which I guess is what you get when they're set in Canada.
Yeah.
Plus the narrator has this really lovely French accent, and it's just so great to listen to.
That's probably why it's calming.
Yes, that might be all the whole no, actually the detective is really very calming too. Like he has this great personality. Anyway, I'm going on and on about this book, but it's really, really fantastic, and you could listen to it for free, and you should just go do that because you need that in your life. So do it. Okay. Now I'll tell you a story.
Okay.
A different story. A real story. A real story that as I was reading it, I was like, let me just double check that this is a real story and not like somebody's convoluted novel they've written.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's
that
insane.
Weird? Oh, okay.
Well, all right, so the crime is not very exciting. Like nobody dies, right? But just I
like how that's our standard for exciting.
I know. It's not exciting. Nobody got
dies.
stabbed with a shoe. Well, no, it's like a pretty minor crime. Like it would ruin the person's life, but it didn't hurt anybody at all other than that. But it's just such a strange tale. So let me just tell you. Okay, Kelly Peters.
Okay.
She's a 49-year-old PTA mom. She lives in Irvine, California, which is like near Orange County, I think, or part of Orange County. I don't know. I don't know anything about California.
I've been there.
Really?
Yes.
Well, she lives in this little neighborhood, and it's like really crazy. It's insanely uniform. Like if I looked at pictures, and like everything is exactly the same. The trees are evenly spaced. The lawns are square. The houses are identical. They're the same color.
Crazy HOA.
Like, yes, very much. And it's like very closed off and very wealthy. And she actually lives or lived in an apartment there. I don't know where she lives now. And she didn't live in one of the houses, and I guess a lot of people, like, they kept trying to buy a house, but they kept getting outbid, and then she quit her job so that she could like be this PTA Super-Mom. And anyway, let me go back a little bit. So she, as a young person, did a lot of traveling and like had a lot of odd jobs. She cooked at a pizza shop. She worked at a skate shop. She at one point was like, I think I'll go to Hawaii, and ended up staying there for 2 years. And then she was a bartender. And so she just had this like wild sort of carefree younger life. And then when she was in her mid 30s, she married a man named Bill, a name build name. I don't know.
A build name.
And they tried for a baby, and it took them a while, but they finally had a baby, and it was like her whole personality changed. Like before, she was always looking for the next adventure, and she didn't really care what was going on, and she was, carefree. And then as soon as she had a baby, she was like, I need the safest place in the world. I have to protect my family. Like her whole world revolved around this child. And so that's how they ended up in Irvine, in this like cookie cutter kind of neighborhood. And she loved it there. And didn't even mind that they lived in an apartment. Like, even though some of the other people that lived in apartments around them seemed sort of ashamed of it, that they didn't own real estate, that they didn't have one of the houses. And she was like, whatever, I just am so happy to be here. So in addition to living in this crazy little place, she also became like PTA Super-Mom at this elementary school. Plaza Vista School. She was in charge of their after school enrichment program, which was called ACE. And she also like ran around during the day in the school and just kind of volunteered and helped out. And sometimes she would drop in on her daughter. Her daughter's name was Sydney. And during this story, she was 10. She was a 5th grader. And she had gone to that school her whole life. And I guess they gave Kelly like a space in the main office where it was sort of like her home base. And everybody knew her and loved her. And she was just, you know, always there to solve issues.
I didn't know her name was Kelly.
Kelly Peters?
Why did I think Sharon? Where am I?
I have no idea.
What made me think of that?
There's nobody in my story named Sharon. There's a daughter named Sydney.
Oh my God, I'm literally losing it. I'm so sorry. I'm like, who's Kelly?
Did I say Sharon is the person we were just talking about that gave the book recommendation? That was a while ago.
Oh my God.
Wow. Okay.
I feel like the one time I'm drunk tired.
Yeah, I guess.
The one time when Bella was Donna.
Yes.
Never spoke up again. This is what I feel like right now. Kelly.
Right.
Kelly's a great name.
Kelly. But Kelly with an I. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I like Kelly with an I. I know a Kelly with an I, and I like her. Okay. Anyway, so on February 16th, 2011, I wrote it down.
Ah, yeah.
She's at school, and she had been there since like 12:40 or so. She'd gotten there like early afternoon, and she had been asked to cover, I think it was a karate class. Like the instructor, it was like
to say she's qualified for that.
No. But the person called and they were running late. They were like, can you just watch the kids for a minute? But she was actually like leading them through their warm-ups because she's, super mom. And she gets a call from the office that the police are there and they're asking for her by name. And she freaks out because her husband's job involves some travel, and she just knows that he's like been in a car accident and he's gotten hurt or he's gotten killed. And so she goes to the office and she's hysterical, and it takes them a little while to like calm her down and let her know that's not why they're there.
Oh, wow.
Why they're actually there is that they have received a phone call and they want to know if they can look in her car. And she's like, well, sure. Like, there's probably some dog hair and some spilled Cheerios or something in the back, right? But it's like a mom mobile. But go ahead and hands them the keys. And they open up the car. And right away, they find 17 grams of pot and 2 little bags. And the bags were very significant. They're called EZY, so easy dose pill pouches. They're little tiny Ziploc bags made for putting pills in, so you can take them in your purse or whatever. One of them had 11 Percocet in it, and the other one had 29 Vicodin.
Dang.
And they put it on the hood of her car, and she's like, get that off of my car. What if my daughter comes out? Like, what if people see? I don't, this isn't mine. And she like fell to the ground, and she's so upset because she wasn't expecting them to find that in her car. So they take her back into the school and they give her a whole bunch of like sobriety tests.
Holy crap.
She passes them all with no problem. And the police officer talks to some of the school staff and they're like, well, she's been here since 12:40. And we love her and she's not this kind of person. You got the wrong person, whatever else. And so finally they're like, okay, you can go home and we'll talk to you again tomorrow. But I don't think you did this. You might have actually been framed.
Yeah.
So here's one of the reasons that they let her go pretty quickly. The phone call that they got claimed to be from a parent of another student at the school who said at 1:15 they'd been at the school and they saw a car driving through the parking lot really erratically and thought the person must be like drunk or high or something. And it was just, they were worried for the kids' safety and could somebody go check on it? And here's what the car looks like. And here's the license plate. And here's the little like vanity, what do you call those things? Like the frame around the license plate?
Oh, yeah. The little frames.
Just a frame. Okay. And knew everything about the car, right?
Mm-hmm.
What color it is, blah, blah, blah. So the phone call we'll talk more about later, but because of that, because she was so cooperative and everybody said such great things about her, and the timeline with the caller didn't match up. Like, she couldn't possibly have been driving erratically at 1:15. She was already in class with kids. So that's why they were pretty sure that, you know, something else was going on. It wasn't really her.
Yeah.
So she goes home, and she's super, super upset because she just knows that she's going to get in trouble, and like, she hasn't done anything and she doesn't know what's going on. And so the next morning they come back to talk to her, and they take her to the police station, and they're like, well, if these drugs really don't belong to you, and they've taken DNA from her, like, she willingly gave them DNA to make sure that, like, it wasn't on the bags and it wasn't in the drugs and all that kind of stuff. Oh, they also found a pipe, which the police officer thought was very strange because it was in the bag with the pot, which apparently is not something that people do. I don't know. Anyway, they said, so why would somebody do this to you? Because you could have gotten in a whole lot of trouble. Yeah. Like, how could this have happened? So what she was possibly facing, the pot, which, by the way, 17 grams, like, is a big old Ziploc bag of it. Yeah. Because I saw the pictures. That would actually have only been a misdemeanor because it's legal, but she had it on school property. So that would have been like if we brought cigarettes onto school property, which every single teacher does, by the way.
Every single teenager does.
And every single teenager. It seems like teachers smoke more than anyone else. It's not, anyway.
Stressful job.
I guess so. It's so gross. So the Percocet and the Vicodin, though, since she didn't have a prescription for them, that would have been felony charges and sent her to jail.
Wow.
So she says, well, it sounds like I must have an enemy. Like, somebody hates me. Yeah. She's like, so I have a couple potential people in mind. She said, one, there's this guy that lives across from me, and he has a kid at the school, and he's really weird, and I don't trust him, and he's kind of creepy, and like, I feel like sometimes he watches me, or he's like, says weird things and stuff like that. They were like, oh yeah, we know about him. We've had other calls about him. So apparently dude is like insane and would do things like stand and watch kids outside the school and like take pictures of the crossing guards.
That gave me a chill. Like...
Yeah, weird stuff. And then another thing that the article said, which I thought was very strange for them to care at all. Apparently one time he showed up in a Batman costume to pick up his kid, which they're elementary school kids. That just does not seem like something that needs to go in a police report, but whatever. Maybe in California it's
I would say
maybe in this place where they care about what kind of mailbox you have and how large it is, you can't show up in a Batman uniform. So the other suspect that she gave them was even more interesting because it was this family. It was the whole family. It was a mom and a dad, and they had a kid who was younger than her child by a couple of years. And the kid goes to her child's school, to the one she volunteers at. And the mom and the dad are both lawyers. And like very normal, wealthy people. Like, they're just people, and like no criminal record, and you know, upstanding community members apparently. So here's why she thought it could be them. A year previous, almost to the day, her son, she had been at school volunteering with the after school program with ACE, and their son was out there, and I guess that they would all go outside at the end of the day, or maybe that was part of the enrichment. Anyway, her job was to go and get all the kids and bring them in. And this kid, I guess, was just very imaginative and like in his head, and so he sort of like dawdled as he was walking in, and frequently did. Well, on this day, she didn't notice he didn't get in before she closed the door. And it's a school, so all the doors are locked, so he was locked out. And he was like 6 or 7 at the time. So he was a little guy.
Yeah.
But he was only outside for maybe like 5 or 6 minutes. And then I think it was a tennis coach, saw him and, you know, asked him what he was doing. You know, why are you out here? And then just, oh, it's okay. And brought him around to the front of the building and in the main door and into the office.
Yeah.
And the parents were there, and the kid was upset, and, but not really upset. Like, he was fine.
Yeah.
You know, he got a little bit scared. They brought him to the office. Everything is cool. Kelly was there. She just apologized and apologized to the parents. She hugged the kid. She thought everything was fine. The mom was a little uptight and weird. Her name is Jill Easter. And apparently the whole time she was just kind of smiling maniacally.
Ew.
But she was also like saying, well, did the coach touch him inappropriately? Like, is it normal for them to bring him all the way around the building to the front door?
God.
And Kelly was like, yeah, I mean, if he didn't have a key for that door, then he just would have brought him. Like, it's fine. This kind of thing happens. He's not hurt. Everything is fine. So the parents go home. And the next day they call the school.
Ugh.
And now the story is their son was outside. He was crying hysterically for 19 minutes. And
how would the son time it? I would have been like, yeah, does he have a stopwatch?
Right. He's 6.
Yeah.
And that he's just absolutely distraught.
Oh my God.
And
Get over yourself.
they're just so upset. And also that Peter's woman said that he was slow because she had said, well, sometimes he's slower and
like slower walking in.
right.
Ugh.
But apparently the Easters took that to mean that she was like calling their kids slow. Well, this school system has like a 97% college acceptance rate.
Yeah.
So that was not okay. So, they have this phone call, and then later in the week, the principal calls them back. Her name is Heather Phillips. And while talking to them, I guess she was talking to the mom again. The mom like pointed out, well, we're both attorneys and we're really upset. And we just want to look out for the other kids. And we don't want that Peters woman around anymore. And then the principal found out that she had been like trying to start a petition with other families to get her kicked out. And then they filed a restraining order saying that Kelly had like intentionally targeted their kid. And then they filed a civil suit saying that
oh my God.
she had falsely imprisoned their child, that she had sought him out, that he suffered extreme and severe mental anguish. So the restraining order was denied and they had to drop the civil suit because that's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
They interviewed other teachers. They, I guess ACE is like a program that takes place in more than one school. And so there's like a corporate headquarters kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And the head of that program interviewed a bunch of people and concluded that nothing had happened. Yeah. The kid was outside for 5 or 6 minutes. He was fine. Like no damage.
He's gonna live.
Right. So then 1 year later, surprise, surprise, she's arrested for drugs. Mm-hmm. So she thinks that they could have had a hand in it because they never got their revenge. Mm-hmm. So they go back, the police go back and they look at the call. So the caller gave a fake name on the phone call and also said he had a kid at the school. It was a man. Mm-hmm. And so they were able to determine really quickly that it was fake because they just looked up the last name or like if there were any guardians or parents or whoever with this, and there was nothing. And it was like a crazy name with like lots of syllables, and I didn't even write it down because I was never going to say it out loud.
Oh, okay.
And halfway through the phone call, like they're replaying the tape and there's like a change in the person's accent. Like they started out just talking normally and then like halfway through developed like a slight Indian accent for some reason. Went into way too much detail. I mean, knew everything about the car. There was no kid at the school that this parent could have possibly belonged to. The timing was off. Mm-hmm. The number they left was fake. And the further this person got into the conversation with the dispatcher, the more they stuttered and seemed really nervous. So the call was very suspect. So they trace it and they find out that it is a landline at a business office at the Island Hotel. And they start to review security tapes. And they're looking for the crazy neighbor across the street at this point because, you know, it can't be the lawyers, even though there's this like strange, fantastical story. Like it just doesn't even make sense. Well, they don't see him in any of the footage. However, they do see around that time of day this tall, skinny man. And the more they look at him, the more they're like, he kind of looks like Kent Easter.
Oh.
And then they find out that like his house is like a mile away from this building and all this. Okay. So then they start looking into the Easters. And they pull some cell phone records, and they discover that the day that this happened, between 2:37 and 4:21 in the morning, when everybody should be asleep, there were 15 texts exchanged between husband and wife.
Do not text. I hate these people.
Not only that, but one of them, the husband's phone, pinged towers not near his home, like his wife's phone, but near Peter's home, Kelly Peter's home. So they started following them around, and they finally one day decided, they had enough evidence to question them. And so they split up, and they kind of ambushed them so that they would be separated and they could talk to them. And they take Kent Easters in for an interview, and immediately he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I don't know why you're questioning me. Like, they said, did you have any reason to ever go out that early in the morning? And he said, well, sometimes I go out for diapers. Like, I guess they had a little kid at home, but I think I was probably at home that morning. Like, I don't remember going out. And they're like, well, do you know this woman, Kelly Peters? And he's like, well, I mean, I know of her, but that was just an incident that happened like a year ago. We don't even care about it. And I've never met her. They're like, well, do you know what happened on such and such a day, the day that the drugs were found? Yeah. He's like, well, I'm not aware of anything that's gone on. And this is why I really thought that it was maybe somebody's crappy novel, because I'm reading the text from the interview and like the things that the cop was saying. And it was so dramatic and ridiculous. He's like, okay, I need you to just be quiet and use your brain, because I'm going to tell you a bunch of things. And at some point, you're going to have to make a big boy decision. And just like all of this weird, melodramatic. Shit. Yeah, it was crazy, but it was fantastic if he really said all those things. So they start to tell him about, we traced your phone here. We saw you on this video footage. Like, there's no reason for you to have been here, blah, blah, blah. And at that point, they're like, so do you have anything to say? And he's like, yeah, I want a lawyer. And the cop was like, that's the big boy decision.
Oh, my God.
Probably been waiting forever to use that line. Anyway,
what a soap opera line.
Oh, my gosh. It's insane.
Unless he like slammed his fist down. You are a lawyer.
Right. Do you want to call your wife? So here is where I'm going to make everybody mad, because this is a super long story, and this is about half of it. And so I'm going to tell you one more thing, and then it's going to be continued, and you're going to have to come back next week and listen to the end of it. All right. So the last thing is that they did search the house, because the mom was at the house and they interviewed her, and then they went in and they searched the house. And the one thing of significance that they found is that she kept her medication in easy. Easy that could have been, super smooth had I said it right. She kept her medication in easy dose pill pouches. Dun, dun, dun.
What a little shit.
Right?
Wow.
So, not saying they did it.
Usually if they find those little baggies on you, because I have live PD started again last night. They were like, all right. Like, they're trying to distribute. Like, that's what they're trying to do. Ugh.
Well, I hope they never come here, because I have so many little tiny baggies that are like for beads and... like all my hunter killer stuff gets put in little evidence baggies.
Evidence baggies are different from but drug baggies.
They look like, they're just little tiny Ziplocs.
Yeah, that's true.
But I don't have anything to distribute unless they want like some beads, or today I cut out like 5,000 paper scales for my Halloween costume.
And here's 4. Thank you.
Right. That'll be $100 because I'm really tired of cutting them out.
Oh, that's crazy. Well, I'm excited to hear the rest of it.
I know. I'm excited.
That's cool.
So next week.
Well,
but you have the end of a cliffhanger for us. So one new cliffhanger and one solved case.
So we always talked about it on here. I didn't realize that we have been talking about it since May.
Yeah.
That's insane to me.
Oh, yeah. Well, we both did our 23andMe DNA and got it back before this case was solved.
You got yours back?
I did get mine back.
We'll talk more later.
Okay. It wasn't very exciting.
Mine wasn't.
No. It was like, oh, I'm not dying of anything. And, oh, look, I'm European.
Oh,
yep,
look, I'm white.
Knew
That's
that,
what
right?
it is. I was like, man. So, like, the little, like, 10% I'm not white, I'm like, look at me.
I don't even think, I think I'm just white. I'm not as German as I thought I was. Because I'd always been told that, like, we had a ton of German in our family.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe somebody does, but not me.
Someone does. That's funny. Well, this one is about the skeletal remains that they found in Yorktown, Virginia. So they finally got it back, and they alerted the family, and they talked to them. So it ended up being 26-year-old Andrew Ellis of West Point. Mm-hmm. He was found sometime in May 19th, earlier this year, in the woods off of this creepy road that's known to be haunted, or they always creep everybody out. And the medical examiner determined the cause of death to be suicide by hanging.
Yeah.
Like, that is they thought, well, obviously they can't get the exact death date.
Right.
But he'd been there. I mean, he'd been there for a while, and critters.
A long while,
yes,
right?
Yeah, years.
Yeah.
So that's kind of sad. But like Aaron and I were talking about, I mean, at least the family has some closure instead of just like a missing persons. Like, that's sad,
right?
But that means he had been hanging there
for years. It means that he killed himself in the woods and nobody found him until everything was gone and he'd fallen down and the rope was all like deteriorated, right? It was like
well, I was trying to find it. Ellis was an estranged from his family who last heard from him in 2012.
Yeah. It is so sad. Mm-hmm. I'm glad they didn't find a murderer. Yeah. But how horrible to do that and nobody even noticed. Like, it took years and years and years and years until somebody just stumbled upon you, and then they had to get DNA. Like, that's horrible.
But at least now it's solved, right? And we don't have to worry about a murderer being on the list.
No murderer in that situation, which I guess is good. And also definitely not related to Colonial Parkway murders.
No, yes, they ruled that out first thing.
They did, but I still was like maintaining a secret hope that it would have been somebody that was missing and they would have been wrong or like lying to us or something, and we would have had a clue. Something. Yeah. But so super sad case, but I am glad that it's now it's over. Yep. And now everyone knows, and it's over. I agree. It's actually been over a really long time. Okay, well, that was depressing.
Sorry, but we've been talking about it for so long.
Oh, I know.
We had to know.
Sure.
Sometimes there are no happy endings, folks.
No. Well, I still feel like there's mystery surrounding it, but I guess that's probably the last we'll ever hear, because now it's none of our business anymore.
Very true.
Okay, well, I'm going to make it happier then.
Okay.
I'm not going to make that happier. There's nothing to do there, but I'm going to make the podcast happier.
Take it away.
By awkwardly transitioning into shout-outs.
Okay.
So we have some shout-outs. I have one that's not exactly podcast related, but can I do it anyway?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's sort of podcast related, because other than this podcast, I also do Shortlisted.
Yes.
With Brian.
Yes.
And he's also one of our biggest fans.
Yes. He's so sweet.
He is so nice. Like, insanely nice. So it turns out his girlfriend, also insanely nice. Aww. So a couple of weeks ago, he asked which Hogwarts house I was in.
Yeah, you told me.
Yep. And then he was like, so my girlfriend likes to make things, and so you're going to have a present coming your way. And look what I got. Aww. So she crocheted me this amazing, like, Mobius strip, infinity scarf with Ravenclaw colors. And it's all soft and wonderful, and I love it. And she's like the most insanely neat crocheter. Look at it's perfect.
Let me see. Oh, and it's like perfectly...
Yeah, no, it's perfect. All the stitches my tension is never that neat.
Dang, girl.
Right? And all her rows are the same length. I always lose a stitch here and there.
Dang.
So thank you very much. That was very sweet. And I realize that's not exactly Crime Crazy related, but I felt like it was podcast related, and I love it.
This is cute.
You cannot steal it.
No, I'm not a Ravenclaw.
Okay, well, good, because that's mine.
That's
She's playing with it and admiring it, and
I know, because it has
worried.
that twist in it, and I'm always
Yes.
like, ooh.
Which means it only has one side.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. That's cool.
So
it kind of reminded me of I like when these because her stitches are so great. It'd be a great one of those little ear headband.
Oh
thingies.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But oh yeah, that's very nice.
Oh yeah, it's probably the right length to make it sort of a hatty headbandy kind of thing.
I mean, I'm not gonna wrap it around my head.
Yeah, if you wrapped it a couple times. I'm not gonna wrap it around my head, she says, as she wraps it around her head.
Trying.
Okay, now. All right, you need some practice there. That kind of looks like a bath towel at the moment. That's not.
You look like a bath towel.
No, I don't. I do have this dog in my face. Okay. All right, I have more shout outs.
Yes.
So, all right, let me do this one. So we had a couple of new reviews.
Yeah.
And they were so nice.
I know. You were like, look.
I know. I was sending you stuff.
I know.
It's
I needed the
I
cheering
miss
up.
you, and here's some awesome things. So, all right, let's see. Zimbalina 13 was one of the people that gave us a really great review. Reminded you of what?
Vampirina. It's a new kids show. It's a little vampire girl.
That's cute, but that's not what this says.
But I like it.
But you know what's really cool about her? Australia. I assume it's a her. It's from Australia.
Nice.
Which is also awesome because we use that podcast reviews thing, which we never ever would have found that review if not for them going through all of the sites and looking it up for us, because you have to iTunes, and I don't know, maybe the new one's different now that they've come out with Apple Music or whatever it's called, which I hear everybody hates. But you used to have to type in all the different country codes to get all the different reviews from all the different iTunes, and so double shout out there.
Yes.
And then, do you want to do the other one?
I remember his first name. Maybe I remember his second name.
Go for it.
Michael Carroll?
Yeah.
Dang, you're welcome.
No, you're supposed to say thank you.
What? Well, yes, thank you for that. But I didn't pronounce your name wrong, and I remembered it. That's
right.
A double whammy from me. Especially how late it is and how tired I am.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
That's nice.
So
I'm impressed with myself.
She's glowing and has totally forgotten about poor Mike.
No. There are so many Mikes in our life.
There are lots of
I don't know if you go by
Mikes.
Mike or Michael, but either way, there's a lot of Michaels in our life. I could never forget about you. And that was the other one you sent me. You're like, do you want to see some good news? And then you screenshot and sent it to me. And I was like, oh, because I guess I could say, I mean, obviously you left reviews and they were so nice. And I was like, oh.
They were super nice.
I'm always like, wow. Okay.
And so his iTunes or Apple or whatever ID is Mike in Seaburg. So I'm going to guess he goes by Mike.
Mike.
There you go.
Nice. We have a lot of Mikes. But then not only did you leave us reviews, because there were two different spots, but now you are a Patreon supporter, and that
is so wonderful.
Warmed my bitter heart.
Aw.
so very much.
But seriously, I don't know why people are that nice, but it's so great. Thank you.
Know. It just means so much. And I was like, do you know what this means? This is so great.
Right.
I'm trying to explain it to my Mike, and he's like, I don't get what's going on here. I'm like, you just don't understand.
Not only did he want to listen, but he also wanted to say nice things, but he also wanted to support us. This is a big deal.
We're taking steps here. So thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And there are lots of goodies headed your way.
Yes, that's true.
Yes. So, although some of them I have to do a little bit of work on, post office stuff.
Oh, yes.
which is the hardest part of my whole life, is trying to go to the post office. But there will be lots of goodies headed your way.
Yes.
And to our other Patreon supporters as well.
Course.
You have some goodies headed your way. So thank you guys so much for listening.
Yes, thank
and of course, you can follow Mike's excellent example and become a Patreon supporter. Or you can get a free trial of Audible and support us that way.
Yep.
Or you can send us an email or join our Facebook group or send us a tweet or like something on Instagram or leave a review. All kinds of great ways that you can get in touch.
We'll say any way you can. We like it.
Yes. And I think that's it. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
It's nothing but the last line. So are you done?
I'm done.
All right. You guys ready for this?
It's going to surprise you like it does every week.
Don't end up on next week's episode.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Crime Crazy. We hope that you enjoyed listening as much as we enjoyed making it. If you like our show, please tell a friend, or better yet, subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes or your favorite podcasting app. We really appreciate your feedback and want to give you a shout out on the next episode if you leave us a review. If you leave us a review somewhere other than iTunes, just let us know. If you loved our show, consider donating to our Patreon. We have lots of great surprises that we want to share with anyone who supports us. And let's be real, it's really just an excuse to send you cool stuff. Thanks again, and remember, even though we really have no idea what we're talking about, we'll be back next week to talk about it all over again.